Hi everyone, welcome to CompuScholar's Professional Development webinar for November and December of 2020. Today we're going to be talking about translating CompuScholar's course content into Spanish and other languages. My name is Chris Yost. I'm the president of CompuScholar. I spent quite a bit of time as a software engineer before moving into the curriculum space. And I'm always happy to answer your questions. You're welcome to send me an email at chris.yost@compuscholar.com. Today we're going to start by reviewing our overall approach to translation, and then we'll review what you can do with our built-in system prompts in our own learning management system. And we'll spend most of our time looking at Google Translate, which is a tool that we'll recommend for auto-translation of text content, and then we'll look ahead to some other options as well. So in the big picture, our own learning management system already has the option to translate prompts into Spanish. However, that does not impact the course content. So we're talking about lesson content, instructional videos, quizzes and tests, and things like that. And we actually have no plans to translate our lesson content into specific languages like Spanish. Not only would that add a very intense logistical burden, but any language that we picked would naturally exclude students that spoke other languages. So we're looking for an easier approach that would apply to all students. And what we'll recommend today is leveraging Google Translate or a similar tool that will let you translate all of our text content. And then we'll talk about some additional things that we can do as well in terms of new closed caption files for the instructional videos. So if you're logged into our learning management system today, you can already go up to that top purple menu and toggle down the language selector and pick Spanish instead of English if you prefer to see our system prompts in Spanish. Now that only impacts the system prompts and not the course content. And of course it only impacts our learning management system. So if you're in Canvas or Schoology or some other system, then that system would have its own way to translate system prompts into other languages. So let's take a quick peek and see how this works today. So I'm logged into our learning management system at learning.compuscholar.com, and I'm logged in as a test student. We can go up here to English and just pull down and select Spanish. And you can see all of the system prompts are now in Spanish. However, the course content down the middle is still in English. And if we go into a chapter, there are a few things that are in Spanish in terms of the system prompts, but the bulk of the material is still English, and of course the videos and the lessons themselves are English as well, as are the quizzes and tests. So naturally, your ESL students that are still struggling to learn English are looking for some additional avenue to help translate CompuScholar content, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So there are now tools like Google Translate that will let you auto-translate the text content on any web browser page. And this would naturally cover any HTML page that we offer, such as the course table of contents, the chapter descriptions, the individual lesson text pages, and the quizzes and tests. And the great thing about using Google Translate is that it supports many, many languages, not just Spanish, and it's free to use, and the translations are instant. Of course, there are a couple of disadvantages to using an auto tool like this, and number one, of course, is the fidelity. How good is the translation? And of course, we can't guarantee a 100% accurate translation when you're using these tools, so you'll want to know and understand those risks. And today we're going to be talking about Google Translate in particular, which probably works best in Chrome. It may be available in other browsers, or you might have to use other alternatives. There are other translation services out there like Google Translate, but again, today we're just going to be focusing on Google Translate. So as a reminder, when you're using these auto translation services, if you find something that doesn't look right, so you translate one of our lesson pages into Spanish or French or some other language, and you believe the translation garbles the true meaning of the original English language text, we can't fix that. So that's a risk that you're going to have to take. All of these third-party services are things that you would use at your own risk, and we certainly recommend, if needed, you flip back and forth between the English and the translated version to make sure you get the original intent. So in order to install Google Translate, you just go to chrome.google.com/webstore, you type in Google Translate in the search bar, and then you install the resulting app in your Chrome browser. And then when you need to use it, it's super easy. You just right-click on a page and you translate it to any desired language. So let's see how this works. So I'm going to start off here in the Google Chrome Web Store, and again, just type Google Translate here. Search for that, and you can see it's one of the top options. There are other translation services. We've never used them. We can't recommend them one way or the other. So you're probably looking for the one that's offered by translate.google.com. So go ahead and install that app in your Chrome browser if it's not there already. So once you've installed that app in your browser, you can go back to our learning management system. You'll see the little Google Translate icon up at the top, and then you can just right-click on the page and say translate to some language. So I've picked Spanish here, but you can translate to many, many languages. So you can click the pull-down menu, choose another language, and pick about 100 different languages. So we'll just stick with Spanish for this demonstration. So you can see I translated to Spanish already, and that includes not only the system prompts, but also the content down the middle. So the course content has been auto-translated to what we hope is a reasonable interpretation of the original English. So this is the main course page. This happens to be our Python course. You can see the chapter titles and descriptions have been translated as well. If we go into one of those chapters, right now Google Translate is actually auto-translating each of the pages that I go to, so you can control that. You can do individual page translations, or you can set it to auto-translate. And it translates the lesson titles, the descriptions, and so on as well. Let's go ahead and pull up one of these lesson text pages. Alright, so here's the original English page. Again, we'll just right-click, translate it to Spanish. And you can check the Always Translate button if you want to. We're not going to do that for this demonstration. And the entire lesson text, just about, has been translated to Spanish. Now we have marked parts of our lessons that we don't want to be translated, so any code samples that you can see here, whether that's static code or the in-lesson try it now sorts of things, the actual code itself, we don't want to translate that, because the keywords within the language obviously still need to remain in the original English, but some of the surrounding prompts have been translated as well. You can also see that our sample output blocks are not translated. That is intentional. So when you run the code above, that's the original English code, and the resulting output should be in English as well. And you can come all the way down here to see that just about everything is translated. Again, the code blocks are not. The hints are kept in English specifically because the hints often include code that we don't want to be translated. But everything else that you would reasonably expect to be translated into your target language has been translated. Now, if you encounter specific elements on our pages that you feel like should be translated but are not, or that you feel like should not be translated but are translated, please let us know. We can go in there and mark those specific elements as being translatable or not, and that will give the Google Translate tool some guidance. We've actually set up some specific tags on the elements that we don't want to be translated, so Google Translate in particular will skip over them. So the cool thing about Google Translate is that it also impacts your quizzes. So if your student wants to take a quiz in Spanish or some other language, now you'll notice this particular course has a security feature enabled where the quizzes are given in a more of a modular pop-up, and if you try and translate, that feature is disabled. Now, as a teacher, if you'd like to change that setting and allow translation of the quizzes, you can go into the course yourself, click on Configure Course, and then scroll down to find the option that says Remove Navigation Links and Discourage Open Book Browsing. If you uncheck that, do the same thing to exams if you want to, and save those changes. Now, as a student, when you go in to take that quiz, you see the quiz remains in a standard frame, and you have the Google Translate options, so you can actually translate the quiz to Spanish at this point. So this might be a useful option for your students that are looking to actually take quizzes in additional languages. And again, I want to remind you that the fidelity here may not be perfect, so students will definitely want to do this at their own risk and potentially flip back and forth between English and Spanish to make sure that they get the original English nuances in any of the questions. So if there's a mistranslation here or something that just changes the meaning of the answers, then of course that would be an issue with the auto translation that you'd want to try and avoid. So that covers most of the text content that is available within a CompuScholar course, including the chapter descriptions and lesson descriptions, the quizzes and tests, all the lesson content. The additional major piece that we're looking at are the instructional videos. So the instructional videos today all have English captions, so you can turn on English captions in your web browser. And we're looking at adding specific language files for Spanish to all of our courses. So that's not yet ready today, but we expect to have an announcement in the near future where you'll be able to go into any of your courses and toggle between English and Spanish captions. So while this won't support all languages the same way that Google Translate will, we expect that our Spanish students will be able to enjoy an auto-translated version of the original English captions in the near future. So stay tuned for those announcements. And the last thing that we'd like to highlight is that we know that there are many of you out there with a really great experience base in teaching students in other languages. Many of you are native speakers of other languages, and so you've kind of lived and worked with these types of translation tools and issues for a long, long time. So we definitely value your feedback and your suggestions. If you find things that you think we could be doing better in this area, if there are additional tools or tricks that you'd like us to communicate to our teacher base, we'd love to do that. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thanks so much for watching, and of course you're always welcome to contact us with questions about this or anything else that we can help you with.